morning, everybody. I'm really happy to be here to talk about B2B payments. Now, my take will be a bit different because we are a B2B marketplace. So we are using solutions, we are paying out suppliers, and we are also getting the money in. So I'm really happy to talk about this today. I really think it's an underrated topic. I think at these kind of payment conferences, you see that we're talking about pay-ins, we're talking about risk and fraud, but really happy to talk about this today. So yep, that's me. My name is Dennis, Director of Payments at GetYourGuide. What is GetYourGuide? So I mentioned before, we are a B2B marketplace for travel experiences. So this is why I have this picture up here. This is when I went to Thailand once and I went to the GetYourGuide app. Oh, what can I do? I saw something about learning to make Thai curries in somebody's kitchen. Great, that sounds amazing. So how does this work? So I paid with the app, I paid with euros, and the person who taught us how to make this, or this company, they're getting Thai baht. Sounds easy, right? No. And this is exactly what I want to talk about today. So my agenda, I want to talk about the payment infrastructure. I know this sounds a bit boring, but you'll see where I'm going with this. I want to talk a bit about issues because this is, I think, the majority. When I think about B2B payments, I just think about all the problems. I want to touch a bit on FX because this is kind of a topic that you can talk about a lot and you can really go back and forth without moving forward here. Then I really want to talk about the last two things, so winning strategy. So as a marketplace, we're not the only travel experience marketplace out there. Most of our suppliers, especially the big ones, they're using 4 or 5. How do I make sure that they use us the most? And this really matters when it comes to payments. So I will talk about this. And then, of course, let's talk about the exciting future, because this is where it's at. So the first thing I want to talk about, let's go with the infrastructure. I have some pictures. Let's play a little game here. So the first thing that I have up here, floppy disks. People remember these? I used it at my first computer. I had these floppy disks, and when I play games, I had to change 1 out of 12 floppy disks to play a game. The second one, I'm 42. I've actually never seen this, maybe in a museum, but that's there, right? Maybe some people have actually used this before. The third one, for sure, I've used this. The first video game system I ever had was Atari. Loved it. Why do I bring these up? Can anybody guess what year these are from? They're early 70s, almost 50 years old. So why do I bring this up? Is because I find it super strange that we still use this. ACH and SWIFT are from the early 70s. Most of the payments that we make as a marketplace are ACH or SWIFT. I think if there's other merchants or marketplaces out there, you might agree that you're probably mostly using this. How is it that we're using 50-year-old technology? Is this not crazy? I don't know. I mean, of course, there's open banking, wallet-to-wallet, but the adoption rate is not yet there. And I find this absolutely mind-blowing. So let's go back to the infrastructure. Okay, so we're a marketplace. How exactly is this working? So payments coming in. This is money coming from our PSPs. We're settling it into our own bank accounts. We're figuring this out in between, and then we're making payouts, right? So the structure actually sounds easy. In reality, as a marketplace, it looks more like this. And I am actually not joking. There was one time I needed to explain the money coming in, what we do with all our bank accounts, and how the money is going out and in different currencies. And I did this on a whiteboard. It actually looked like this. I am not joking. There are people in this room that have actually seen this before. So it is super, super complex. So I just want to say this because there's an appreciation for how difficult it is to change and make things better in this space. So, of course, this brings problems. Anything that's super complex is going to be a lot of problems. So what are some of these things that, at least from our perspective, we're facing, and maybe there's some companies in this room that are facing the same things? The first thing is payment failures. So Rob was mentioning, and I actually did not know this statistic, but that there are companies that are depending on this. For late payments, if you have a payment that's late, then that really impacts your company. I can tell you, we have suppliers, especially small ones, maybe they have a little boat trip. If we don't pay on time, they're banging on our door saying, we need to pay our people. I cannot run my operations. What am I doing? We're trying to pay, but it's just not going through. There's something fundamentally wrong there. I put this 5% up there because this is an honest figure that we used to have. before we really started cracking down on this. We've since then brought it down. We take this super serious, and why? The resources that you need to investigate failed payments and to figure out what is happening and get those payments out, that costs money and time. There's also country-level restrictions. We all know what these are. We're a global marketplace, so we're making to all different countries. They all have their own regulations. They all have their own limits. These are changing all the time, and this is also costing us failed payments and costing us money. In the end, this is mega frustrating for suppliers. Really, this is their life. This is their business. These are real people trying to make a living, and we can't do it just because something is wrong in between our banks. And then in the end, that's the loss of our brand reputation. We're trying to fight. We're trying to also compete with other marketplaces that are out there. So if you add all of these up together, you're bleeding money. So this is something that you really had to take serious, these payment failures. Now, I said before that I would talk about FX. This is such a, if anybody asks me, should I think about my currency mixture? Should I be trading? How should I be doing this? It really just depends. It depends on your business. So these are kind of the questions. So should I have currencies? I will tell you at GetYourGuide, we actually have 19 currencies. Why? We're paying out to so many different countries. I would say maybe the last big payment that we were making was maybe 60 countries. Should we have 60 currencies? No. That seems really problematic. I don't even want to deal with that. But it actually does make sense for us to use 19. So just something to think about other than doing FX, doing like-for-like currencies. So how many currency accounts should you have? Also depends. Take a look at the money that's coming in. Take a look at the money that's going out. What would you be paying for FX? What would you not be paying? You really have to look at these and calculate if it makes sense or not. Also, one thing that I think is really interesting, should I trade currencies within my bank before I send them out and then I can do like for like? Or should I just send it in the currencies that I have and then have the FX when it's going out? Also, things you need to really calculate and see what makes sense. And then, yeah, I just say here to calculate the cost. This is really everything. I think that most companies that I speak to, and we were also guilty of this, we just built some kind of payout structure, and it didn't move. It was stale. You really have to continue to be looking at these things to see if you're really optimal and calculate those costs. So here's some other problems. I wish I could talk about these for hours, but here's just some other things. So payout methods. As I mentioned before, do we want to be using 50-year-old infrastructure? Yes, actually, it's somewhat reliable, but it's slow, right? So there's other things. You should be really thinking about your mixture. Are you paid to card? There's open banking payments, things like this you really should be thinking about, because if not, then it's causing problems. Wires versus ACH. I kind of love this subject. So there's obviously a cost associated with either, and you'd be like, well, ACH, it's cheaper, right? Shouldn't we do that? Well, it depends on how you're doing the payouts and what companies you're working through. Yeah, maybe. But let me give you an example. Thailand. I went there, right? We, last year, were paying all of our Thai suppliers via ACH. At some point, I think maybe February, March last year, all of our ACHs failed. Okay, that's strange. So now we had to deal with the onslaught of Thai suppliers. Where's my money? What is this? What's happening? And we're trying to scramble to find out that Thailand made some regulation change where domestic ACH limit went down to 50,000 Thai baht, which for our suppliers is nothing. And that's why everything failed. Okay, great. Then we switched to wires. So this is just one country compared to all the countries that are out there. So yeah, I think wires versus ACH, something you should always be thinking about. Also, if you wire to the US, I'm sure that the receiving end is not going to be happy when their bank charges them fees because you sent them a wire. So things to think about. Risk and fraud. I will tell you that we're guilty of, let's say, not being so on top of this. And this is a big problem. Because let me tell you that if I were to be a fraudster, I would rather do B2B payout fraud because the amounts there are so high and I can get that money directly into my account. I would never even mess with this other kind of fraudster that people are working on. But I think if your company is not really looking at risk and fraud, this is something that you should be really looking at. KYC, KYB, I don't need to say much about this. I think the interesting thing is, what exactly does KYC or KYB mean to your company? When you're doing this onboarding, are you following a set procedures? Are you going by the requirements? Are you going above and beyond because maybe it's just safer for you? I think these kind of KYC, KYB is thrown out this word all over the place, but I had to sit down at GetYourGuide and say, we need to define what this means for us, and we need to make a policy and stick to it. So I think that's something that can cause some problems. And of course, compliance. Compliance, this is always going to be looming. It's always going to be changing. I also think as we move into more digital currencies, these kind of compliancy things are always going to be coming up. So let's not talk about problems anymore. I really want to talk about winning strategy. So as I mentioned before, we're a marketplace. We want to compete. How can we compete with these other companies and really be on the edge? I really would love to be like the Uber driver experience. I really see them as the top. They're in every single country where they have not been kicked out. And they are making payouts whatever they want. And so I feel like they really have this winning strategy, and they're super, super known for this. So here's some things that I put on here. I talked about currencies before. If you haven't looked at your set of currencies, like for like FX, in a while, let's say 2 years, you should probably review it. We just maybe a month ago opened up a new account for Mexican pesos. Why? Well, at first this was actually because the Mexican VAT, the stuff that we had to pay for Mexican peso account, fine. But I'm actually happy what we did, because when I turned on the PSP side, I turned on Mexican pesos to come like for like into our new Mexican peso account. I'm seeing this money come in. I'm like, I was just going to use this to pay VAT. No. A lot of volume was actually coming in. They're not top 10 for us, but enough volume was coming in. So now we can pay our Mexican suppliers out via ACH with no FX. Great, win for us. So I would say that if you haven't reviewed these, maybe it's time to review it again. Payment methods. Okay, so ACH wires, we're always talking about T plus 1, 2, 3, these kind of things. I don't think that this is the way to go forward. We should be talking about the instant payments. Let's talk about wallet to wallet. This is something that will really, really differentiate yourself. I know, for GetYourGuide, I know our competitors. I know exactly what payment methods they have. It's going to be bank transfers, PayPal. If we are the first ones, I hope there's no competitors in here, I don't think there are, but if we are the first ones to have Venmo in the US, and this wallet, and real-time here, real-time there, I know that we will get much more share. And this is what we're aiming. Payment frequency. Okay, yeah, it sounds like maybe in the B2C situation, you can just pay people when they want to. In the B2B world, I don't often see that. We're still kind of on the invoices. We pay monthly. Most of our suppliers, we pay them monthly. We have auto-generated invoices, goes through AP, then we pay it once a month. For really, really big ones, for really large amounts, we'll split it bi-monthly. Is that the way to go forward? I don't think so. I really think if you want to be competitive, it should be mega flexible. And what do I mean by flexible? No longer once a month, no longer bi-weekly. Make this time frequency different. And I really believe in the payee-initiated payments. So they should be able to go onto our platform and say, you know what? I actually really want to scale now. Or, God, there's so many tourists coming here, and I really need to buy some stuff to do this, and I can't wait for the rest of the month. Great. We put a button there. You press it. In 3 seconds, it's in your account. If we can have this infrastructure, I know that at least in our space, we will be winning. Regulations, oh, I see that I don't have so much time, so I'll go through this a bit quickly. Regulations, I think one thing that I want to say about this is, like I mentioned with Thailand, you really have to stay ahead of the game. If you don't, let's say, if you're going for many countries, talk to your payout providers or, let's say, peers in the industry, because they'll know, oh, you didn't know about Thailand? Oh, you know, if you were to have known this, you would not have had these failed payments. So that's something to think about. Rob mentioned automation. This is super, super important. I don't know all the players that are doing B2B payments, but let me give you an example. When a payment fails, do you have a completely automated solution where, let's say the beneficiary name is wrong? Do you send an automated email to the beneficiary that says, oh, by the way, the name on your account's wrong. Please change it. Here's the link to do so. When you click on the link, you update it, and then after you update it, the rescheduling of the payment automatically goes out with the new data. Does everybody have that? No? We don't have it. But we need to get there. And then payment costs, just to say, I think in companies, this can often get, you look at payment costs on the payment inside, but in marketplaces, people forget this. it's eating away at the contribution margin. And so these are things that you need to be aware of to make sure that you're not bleeding money either. So let me just quickly talk about the exciting future for B2B payments. I have 3 things that I think will be coming up soon. So real-time already exists. There's open banking, there's going to be wallet-to-wallet, things like this. I think they're going to be a bit more global. They're super segmented by countries these days, and each country has their own regulations. I think that this is going to be a bit more, let's say, global. And then also the country limits. Right now, for real-time payments, we can't use most of them. The limits are too low. Our payouts are too high. I really think in the future, as adoption gets up, that these amounts are going to get higher. Also, I don't need to say anything, but the digital age, cryptocurrency, digital currencies, these are coming, and people will want to be paid with this. I will give you good examples. In LATAM, the currencies are not as stable as they are in Europe. There are some very volatile currencies. We already get requests saying, can you please not pay us in our local currency? Right now, they're saying, okay, yeah, you can pay us with USD. I know in the future, they're going to be like, can you pay us with this stablecoin, cryptocurrency? And the last thing, I really think that there's going to be some big players and orchestration that are coming up. I've spoken to a bazillion payout companies because we're really, really looking to get into this winning strategy here. Maybe I'm too demanding, I don't know, but I feel like not one provider is giving us everything that we need. I think in the future, we will start to see some consolidations and then the big players that everybody's like, oh yeah, they really have everything that we need. And then on top of that is orchestration. Why just stay with one? If you've ever talked to me, I love orchestration. I think I really, really believe in it. Why should I have one provider and stick to that when I can just have 5 and I can dictate how it goes? So I think with these strategies, we can really, really move on to the digital age into the future for B2B payments. Thank you.